If you've ever been to this channel before, you probably know what you're going to get with this match review where, I don't usually say the sky is falling. If you're new here and you're here just to celebrate Barcelona winning the Liga, welcome. It tends to be positive here at the Barcelona podcast. If you're one of those who do watch the videos but aren't subscribed, I would love it as we are at the end of the season and I have all that summer content planned. Go down and hit subscribe. It's a big help to me as well. So with all that done, again, the stakes of this game with Barcelona had a big party, a big celebration planned at the very end of it, and Real Sociedad are in a fight for fourth place, that final Champions League spot with Villarreal, and of course 3 points for them today was going to go a long way with them securing that spot. Barcelona also began this match with a guard of honor, kind of feeling like, the season is already done. They are La Liga champions, and there was a ton of rotation as well. We'll talk about it and how it affected the game, but Araujo, Gabi, Pedri, whether injuries or card accumulation, and Real Sociedad with the game against Almeria also rotated quite heavily with Kubo on the bench, David Silva and Bryce Mendes nowhere to be seen and unavailable for this one. So I think we did cover all of our bases. Here are the 5 headlines for Barcelona's 2-1 loss to Real Sociedad. One is don't scout Martin Zubimendi. Of course I say that tongue-in-cheek, but I think Barcelona are fairly, and I said this in the last podcast I did, I put it at the end in case you didn't listen that far to just me rambling on and ranting for 30 minutes, but I'll repeat it again. That there is no reason why Martin Zubimendi, especially if Real Sociedad make the Champions League group stage for next season, should have to go to Barcelona. There's no right that Barcelona has to a Spanish player that may fit perfectly in their system, but it would be hypocritical for Barca fans to cast stones at PSG or Man City or Liverpool or Manchester United or anybody in EPL or Real Madrid with big money to spend to say, how come those clubs get any player they want, they just get to pick them and they bring them in? But for Barcelona, it feels like they're doing the same thing with Zubimendi, a player that, just like Orzabal, just like Lenormand, those are Real Sociedad players through and through, and if they want to sign contract extensions and stay at that club, all the power to them. Now, for those who've been with me for a while, since back 2019, so before I lived here where I lived, there was 2 other stops where I was filming, and you could go back in 2019 at those summer transfer targets or January, whatever it was, that I said that Zubimendi was at that point a 20-20-year-old from Real Sociedad with a lot of potential. I saw him in 1 or 2 games for their B team, and I said, hey, this kid's got something. I pointed him out then. He's continued to grow, and now he's 24 years old, and it seems like he's exactly the player that Xavi wants. I have never completely been 100% sold on him, but this is the kind of match that does go a long way in saying that even if Barcelona wait an additional year, and that's where the caveat comes, that they can't wait that additional year, they need a pivot to come in. So it seems like their time with Zubimendi will pass, and he was pretty fantastic in this game as well, arguably the man of the match for Real Sociedad. He was tidy in possession, and of course, it wound up being the game winner. He orchestrated that goal, getting the tackle on De Jong, and then the assist for Sarlat on the other side. So a big day for him, not because he was playing likely in front of his future fans, but instead because he helped the club that he's likely going to stay in the Champions League fight. Headline 2 is Kounde Unkempt. I can throw this match out to a certain point, but it did matter for 1 or 2 players. As people did point out, Ferran Torres and Pablo Torre and Ansu Fati, they didn't start this match, and that might be really telling as to where Xavi sees them next season. Because it's true, this match didn't truly matter. Of course, you want to play well throughout the remainder of the season. You want to give your fans, and 88,000 people were there for the party, something to celebrate, which of course Barca didn't. But by not being selected for this kind of match with such little stakes, kind of tells you where Xavi sees you in the pecking order, even maybe for next season. With Kounde at center back for Araujo, the answer should be that he should be the 3rd choice center back next season. We'll see about Inigo Martinez and where he fits in the order. Same as Marcos Alonso. But of course, on that first goal, just like the 2 that was scored for Espanyol the other day, Kounde, not great. Major questions about him at center back this year. Sarlat took it right off him, squared to Moreno, who was waiting in behind, and it was a really easy finish for that first goal. Kounde is good at clearing, good in the air, but his tightness on the ball, playing out of the back as a center back, has not been up to the standard this season. We saw much better from him at Sevilla. And he has still been very much a net positive signing because of his work at right back, where, of course, at the beginning of the year, you'd say, Kounde, not really a natural fit as a center back at Barcelona, but he is a quality right back, and Barcelona may consider going forward with that next season, especially if they choose to fulfill other positions like a pivot, and they don't have any money left over to go for a right back. It could have been something else that we hear about later, but I didn't hear anything about Kounde picking up a knock or anything like that. Because at halftime, here comes Marcos Alonso. And if Marcos Alonso is your answer like, we have one player not playing well, we need to straighten everything out and put on Marcos Alonso, then obviously Barcelona have the same squad issues and fears that Culés have had all season long. And it's even more frustrating because you see Araujo unavailable, like he will be most years with as injury prone as he is, and Kounde has not been the answer, and that is a concern. 3 is a bit of frustration. Let's keep going on that idea of frustration because believe it or not, I know that Real Sociedad won this game 2-1. They were up 2-0, and they really felt like they were on their front foot for considerable amounts of the first half. But taking the second half into consideration and the total match stats from this game, it was pretty much even. And 2-1 actually wound up being rather fair at the end of the day. But there was also a number of times when you felt like Barcelona were getting in their own way. They were creating chances, they weren't finishing them, and they just seemed to be unpolished on the day. Starting in the 16th minute, Barca were really pressing well. They were doing the right things they had to do, and then Rafinha picks it off to Lewandowski, and Ramiro saved the header from Dembélé with his foot. A minute later, Kessie missed a chance he should have taken, well set up by Lewandowski and Dembélé. And La Real, credit to them, they had a lot of success with that 4-2-3-1, with Barcelona completely busted open in their first matchup this season and for many matchups over the last few years, because they are a well-built side, a fun side to watch in the Liga, and I guess it felt like only a matter of time before their quality, excellence, and system met the desperation that they needed to get 3 points in a Champions League spot from this game, that it would all work for them, and it did today. And some of the choices that Barcelona made and Xavi made, I felt like maybe a little bit of experimentation too. With Dembélé on the left, Rafinha on the right, and then Balde also starting on the right. It's not as much Balde getting forward, of course. I know it feels like he's an overlapping fullback, but he's not. He likes to cut inside. So does Rafinha. And because those two are, unlike Dembélé, a little bit more one-dimensional. Because 1v1 situations, Dembélé, to his credit and also to a fault, can go left, right, like a whirling dervish. He can go up and down and wherever you need him to be, causing a lot of chaos. But Rafinha is going to have the same patterns. And Balde wants to have those same patterns. I think that things got really gunked up on that right side for Barcelona. And it was also a really frustrating day for Lewandowski as well, as much as I think he does prosper and do better with Dembélé. And I think that actually expounded the frustration for Lewandowski because there was opportunities for him in that game. There was a way for him to play well. There was a path forward with that combination with Dembélé. But Lenormand was frustrating him all evening. They were after each other just like in their first matchup, and this one was really bubbling. It could have been a red for the Polish striker. You saw him pick the ball up at the end of the match, so frustrated. Was that the most visibly frustrated we have seen Lewandowski in a Barcelona uniform so far this year? And good on La Real, continuing to change the match and push back even when they were up 2-0. The introduction of Kubo, they changed it up a bit. A really good job between Moreno and Zubimendi of picking up De Jong and Kessie as those late runners off of Dembélé, Rafinha's dribbles. Xavi tried to counter with Ansu and Ferran Torres coming on, and Barca switching into more of that 4-2-3-1, mirroring what La Real did to start the match. And I think that did help a little, but Barca really only looked like they were ready to go for that game, ready to tie it up and even go for a winner with about 12 minutes left to go, and that did not give them enough time to not only find the game, but get the goals they needed. And yeah, Barcelona should be faulted for not reaching their level higher quicker. Headline 4, Ter Stegen rightly irritated. Don't forget, the Marc-Andre Ter Stegen is still fighting for those clean sheets. Those are the ones that matter to him. The ones that should matter, and they do matter to Araujo, and they should matter to Christensen, and Kounde, and Balde, and Alba, and Alonso, and whoever else is back there on the back line. Clearly, he was frustrated by the first goal, and he should have been. As I said before, Kounde can't give up the ball in that situation, and Christensen kind of caught between two minds, not trusting Kounde to be able to get back and handle Sorloth, so he didn't track Moreno, and neither did Busquets, and Moreno was just wide open to put it past Ter Stegen, and Ter Stegen was close to it, but didn't get enough of it on the first goal. And then the second one, we saw Zubimendi take it off De Jong. Barcelona were frustrated. They started complaining because they felt like De Jong was fouled, not by Zubimendi, but prior to that led him to lose his balance, that led him to lose the ball. And as they were complaining, off to the races, Zubimendi didn't worry about it. And there goes La Real barreling towards Ter Stegen's goal, and there was nothing that he could do about that second goal. And it's frustrating too because you just see the lack of almost trust at that back line. Clearly, Christensen didn't believe that Alonso could beat Zubimendi for pace, which he probably should, being Alonso as a center back, and Zubimendi does play as a pivot and a defensive midfielder, but he didn't trust him, so he moves over, and that's what left it a wide open net for Ter Stegen to be scored on. That means 11 conceded all season, but 4 had been conceded since going up 4-0 over Espanyol and basically winning the title then. And that's really frustrating that Barcelona have seen such a dip on the back line. They weren't willing, or they just made mistakes, and they've kind of lost themselves some history. Could Pedri and Araujo played in this match if it mattered? Yeah, probably. But again, it's a frustrating idea that without Pedri and Araujo, things from top to bottom really do fall apart. And I think fans also are rightly justified in asking why Pablo Torre was only able to get 4 minutes. If you're already down 2-0, and this match, we'll say, doesn't matter for Barcelona, you're about to celebrate, I get that you want to give certain players certain time, but yeah, throw out the kid and see what he can do. Whether or not he's doing anything in training or not, he is still a member of the first team. And so I think these are the kind of games you've got to throw him out there. In the same way that Real were throwing out some of their teenagers. And headline 5 is celebration nonetheless. Not to say it didn't really matter, but you could feel once Sergio Busquets came out of the game getting the standing ovation, the captain preparing himself to lift that Liga trophy with the Camp Nou faithful, almost 90,000 people celebrating it. You felt like the celebrations were beginning regardless of the match. And then of course, the consolation goal for Lewandowski. You could see that raising that Liga trophy or not, that guy individually wants a Pichichi trophy. That guy wants to get a goal. So he gets number 22, rising up, heading it in. Good job on him, and it did kind of feel like when that goal happened, it did give fans something to cheer and prepare them for the celebrations that were coming. Unfortunately for Barcelona, they did make some bad history. This was the first home defeat in the Liga this season, so the Camp Nou faithful had to watch that and then celebrate for the first time this year, as well as being the first time that La Real had beaten Barcelona at the Spotify Camp Nou or at the Camp Nou since the early 90s. It was 27 straight losses to Barcelona. So not great history to be broken, but it's one of those where the history books are going to say that was the match that they lost, and obviously you and I might hopefully remember context, but the history books will certainly forget about what the context of this loss was. Because to wrap it up, it's not one I really care about, but it's one that we're going to talk more about tomorrow on the podcast. Likely that'll be out early on Monday morning, depending on when you're watching this. And as always, until next time, well, Visca Barça, because they are Liga champions. Don't forget about that even in a loss. And as always, Forza Barça.